containers. But we will be very happy to speak with you individually on your requirements for this service.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I'd like to introduce Hemp-3 in the blue shirt here, Maersk blue shirt. Hemp-3 is my colleague, and he works specifically for import cargo and is an expert on what I've just presented. So please take the opportunity to talk to Hemp-3 for your specific requirements. Thank you.
Should we address questions now, or panel, or how? Are there any questions? Mark? And actually, you might want to stay up here if you've got questions specific to the service that I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, my question is really, is your outbound US container flow going to become your front haul?
It looked like it was going to do that back at the end of 2007 and 2008 with the pressure that we had seen on the import rates and the rates that we were earning on the exports. But again, once with the break bulk slide, that all went away.
But I think I can add to that. I don't think so. The US is still buying a lot of stuff. What we have seen in Indonesia, that's you.
Oh, sorry.
Stand still, Andy. What we have seen is that export from Indonesia has obviously dropped, but it hasn't dropped as much as, for example, China. So we've seen export from Indonesia has moved from before being manufactured in China or Vietnam, let's say footwear, garments, that has moved back to Indonesia again, and that a lot of that stuff is going into the US. I'm not saying we're going to take over China, but we're definitely doing quite well on the export front, and hence our need to get import containers into Indonesia to support that export as well. I know, yeah.
Yeah, I got a question on what you just said. So, because you read that the Indonesian exports have dropped by 25% or whatnot, but it doesn't seem to be impacting on the containers that much. So, what has dropped? It's not. You're saying it's not the finished consumer goods, the garments, the furniture, the Nike shoes, and all that kind of stuff. What is it?
Well, the biggest commodity drop that we have seen is in the furniture business. And that has something to do with the fact that people are not moving that much in the US. And if you're not buying a new house, you're not buying new furniture. So that has been the significant drop in that. I think it's also something to do with the fact that we are not having as much of the raw material, the valuable wood that we used to have in Indonesia, rattan, furniture, etc. So furniture definitely is one of the commodities that's way down.
And just one question for you there. You mentioned that there are 500 vessels laid up, the container vessels laid up. What does that represent in terms of a percentage of the fleet?
In terms of the global fleet, I'm not sure. There was a slide up here yesterday that showed what the total capacity was of... I
think we're approaching about 10% that has been laid or will be laid up. And it was our friend from Germany yesterday who had a slide that predicted much more layup. As we continue to see new ships coming out from the shipyard, ships that are really in the process of being built, they will not be stopped. Maybe they'll be delayed. What I do believe is that there will be a number of cancellations of ships that has been ordered but not started. In fact, there are some shipyards in China that have received orders, but the yard is not finished. New shipyards. And I predict that that will be dragged into 2012-15. So maybe the added capacity will be less, but nevertheless there will be a need for further layup of capacity before we reach a balance. But we're working on other things as well to use that capacity. Instead of having a big ship laid up, we're trying to see what we can do to utilize that capacity. And that means that, for example, in and out of Indonesia, we are trying to get more direct products. And at the moment we're working on a service from Jakarta to East Africa. So we'll use some of those ships that would otherwise be laid up and introduce more services on that. On the main mother vessel strings, what we're looking at is to sail slower. And I realize that will give a longer transit time, but it also means that we can burn less fuel. I think you pointed that out, that container vessel with the speed of 25 knots is burning much more than a bulk carrier is. But both for the environment, but certainly also just to utilize the ships and keep them busy, because it's not good for a big ship to be lying idle. In fact, there's a long process. If you want to turn it cold storage that completely, you have to turn off the main engine, you have to take all the oil out and so on, and you still need people on board. So it's not cheap, it's not without cost just having the vessel lying idle. One thing, it's not earning any revenue, but you still have significant expenses in taking it out of service.
If there are some specific questions regarding the slides up here, we'd certainly like to answer those questions now.
I think there was a question.
If they are general in nature, if we could hold them for the panel discussion, that would help us on our time management. So do we have any questions specific to the slide, or can we hold them for the general panel discussion?
Okay.
That just helps us keep on schedule better, but we want to, of course, address the slides while they're up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.